Welcome back to my lovely IHP video short podcast viewers. I have a little bit for you today. Did you know that to develop secure attachment for an infant, it is established in the first 7 months of their life, and that for adults that would be 2 years, and they talk, or the research is on attachment for romantic, so securely attached romantic relationships. Now, what is fascinating about all of the attachment research is the aspect that a person, thank you Daniel Siegel, I'm about to share something that I learned from him, can have secure attachment experiences when they are able to make sense of the very difficult experiences that happen to them. Furthermore, a person who navigates life with an integrated mind, so the communication between left and right mode of your physical brain and being engaged in your ventral vagal state, the social engagement state of your nervous system, with a restorative embodied self, of course, that is the optimal well-being of a person. But furthermore, that in this spectrum you will be able to experience your depth of emotions. Here's where Krishna Lila comes in, and Shiva and Kali are there obviously, because the mind of a person that navigates with integration is one that is flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable, unlike the rigid mind of an adaptive child, and that is of anyone who has not had the opportunity to make sense of their very challenging situations. And so some will have, whether it be secure or non-secure attachments, so attachment wounds. They can have relational attachment wounds, personal attachment, or personal insecurities. There's an array of areas that I'm not going to look into at this moment in time, but that are part of an ego's journey, because the ego self, you really can treat it as one thing if you want to understand that you, the name of you, has ages, and that you are an adult when you're a functional adult, emotionally speaking, so you don't have a reactiveness as you engage with another, but you're able to maintain a sense of equanimity, compassion. Compassion means that you're able to sit in a body that wants to be engaging. So you're not like, oh, I'm pissed because you're annoying me, and I'm going to justify that I'm pissed because you're annoying me, so this emotion must stand. No, as a person who has an integrated mind and a restorative embodied self, and therefore then that functional adult emotionally, so I'm able to be aware of my charge state and what's coming up. I'm annoyed. Why am I annoyed? Let me think. I'm having an interaction. Is there a justification for this emotion? And here, back to Daniel Siegel, as when he explains unresolved trauma and unresolved emotional charges of any sort. So when you don't make sense of the very challenging things that happen to you, which we all will have challenging things, since at a 0 month, when my stomach goes grumble, grumble, it will not be, hey, yay, my stomach is making some, no. So people don't actually think that's important. They don't know the word implicit memory. They also don't know that emotions matter, because they have rigid educators who really need to be called out by someone telling them emotions are stupid. I think those educators need to go back to school and sit down and learn about how their body works, like from a buttload of the researchers that are out there who can prove it with machinery. And in fact, I'm sure if we put them all in scans, that we would have it very straightforwardly figured out, since we're all basically going to be reactive to certain extents, because that nervous system behaves a certain way, and that 7-month-old is what decided how your body is going to kind of react to things. So the 2-year-old does matter, and what you look like at a older age matters too. So when I see rigid people and someone telling me that emotions are stupid, I'm going to say, okay, there's not a very good relationship with emotions, because emotions are amazing. If you ask a secure attachment person with an integrated mind, though, because see, when my right brain stuff is coming up, when my emotions are coming up in my restorative embodied self, I don't feel heartbroken, gut-wrenched, torn apart. I don't feel a shame cycle. In fact, I don't cower down, and I don't get angry, and I don't get mad necessarily. It depends what emotions are rising. I'll feel the emotion that's arising. Back to the example, annoying. I'm somebody who some people will have considered very annoying, and I agree, as a teenager, I was very annoying. I grew up and I basically chose that I'd be around people who would accept me for who I am. And if they didn't, they don't have to. Like, I don't have to either. But I'm pretty flexible, so you can do a lot of things. As long as you're not physically threatening me, you won't be told much. I mean, if you're actually going to insult me, that's a different story. I'm going to have to say, you know what, I don't think this is very nice. And if you are insulting me, I wouldn't know why you're around me in the first place, right? So people don't have to be around each other. This is the beauty of secure attachment. People in an integrated mind and a restorative embodied self, we actually really don't care of your opinion, in the sense of it's not going to make me feel worthless. Again, no shame cycle. The shame cycle is an emotional reaction, FYI, which is connected to our society. In fact, it's a social emotion. So I would say that the 5D mystic knows what choosing love means, because a 5D mystic will be in oneness consciousness. They only know unconditional love. They know forgiveness because the past will never change. It already happened. Furthermore, in their body, as long as there's no physical threat, emotions are not threatening. So again, shame cycle instead, heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart, or unresolved trauma. There are different feelings that take place in a dysregulated and modulated embodied self. And in fact, this is where it makes my heart very, very sad. And my mind is always actively seeing, how can I help people know that they don't have to go through human suffering? And I know that there's a buttload of great educators that are saying and sharing that, and I'm so excited about that. And I get to join the bandwagon. Plus, for my 5D mystics, the ones who actually want to be in 5D and not in 4D, talking about energy vampires, blocking people, canceling them, or really even the whole believing that there can be any type of dark magic. Yeah, no, I have seen things that would be equated in this arena. And although I know without a shadow of a doubt that certain people from the 4D community will think otherwise, I'm pretty confident in my arena, is what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to try it out or test it out. This is where that would be silly. What I can share is that what you believe is what you experience. And I don't see and never have believed in evil, not even when I was raised with the Catholic Church and Jesus and God. I, in fact, told God, I don't know, evil. I read all these psychology books. These people, they're all suffering. They're all insecure. I'm not really sure what the deal is with the people that are leading and saying they're saying your word, but something is really off. Like when those educators tell people that emotions are stupid and that compassion is stupid, or that your brain can get so open that it's going to fall out. So all of those statements actually don't incentivize, I think that's a word, they don't have a person get more curious. In fact, they lead a person who's potentially already inclined to be like this, rigid and closed-minded, to continue thinking that it's okay to stay there. We have enough of those types of people. We want more open minds, because the reality is education and information keep building. Meaning knowledge didn't stop with Freud or with our ancestors in the caves. Apparently, people didn't realize that we would figure out how the heart of a human being pumps and the mind of a human being. Not really sure why this shocks some people. So, integrated mind. The left is the linguistic, the verbal part of our brain, and it leads that. The right is the holistic, and again, the nonverbal. So 5D mystics, we will have plenty of beautiful clairs, because everything is really a big ball of energy and sound, but that's where I still need to read about that with physics. So and once I get a download on that, I'll be able to use more words to express the concept. In the meantime, human suffering does not have to be a thing. In fact, I'm one of the people that does not know that suffering, because emotions are not scary to me. So whenever I've felt emotions, which I've had plenty of them, and have felt them very deeply. In fact, as I was trying to say, they're not stupid. They're the most enriching experience you could ever have, is to feel deeply. But It's only if you're doing it with a restorative embodied self, because that's where your nervous system's engagement is not in the fight, flight, freeze of our reptilian older nervous system response, which served our ancestors well. It's part of the parasympathetic branch. The nice parasympathetic branch that we get to use, the 5D mystic and beyond, it's called the social engagement one. That's the ventral vagal one. So I want to hug all the people in the world, even the ones who might not want to hug me. No, I don't want to hug the tree. I love that I have trees because I know I need them for oxygen, and I know the planet is beautiful thanks to them, but I would rather hug a person who's squishy. The tree bark is really hard, and maybe I'll caress the tree, but it's not going to tell me anything. I'm not even going to intellectually be able to have a conversation with the tree. So what am I going to do with a tree? Did you know that isolation is actually, like, when I need to watch the video on the well, something about it kills people. We're not here to be isolated. So the people who do withdraw, it's actually quite sad because they didn't actually figure out that they can move out of their unresolved trauma. What's even more sad is that people continue to think that emotions are stupid and that they know how to lead life when they are actually treating each other in ways that are quite childish and not necessary. So the adaptive child is harsh, unforgiving. They don't learn new skills, and they're not using left and right together. They might be using left, and they can regurgitate a buttload of information to you, and they can make a good argument. Oh, they'll win their case. What they haven't noticed is what they're not going to be able to experience from their body, because they haven't noticed that their rigidity is felt by them, that they're interacting in a conversation with another person that can be a lot more pleasant. When it comes to our society, this is where it is through our example that children learn. I look forward to seeing more compassionate and 5D people. I already see the 5D educators, and it's really awesome. And so human suffering, it is actually very avoidable, but it begins with conversations that share with people how and why that is. So your human body, our human body, is always seeking for the mind to restore that unresolved trauma, wants to return and or be put into what they say regular memory. So the way the brain works. I know some people like the word reprogramming, but I mean, to talk about your brain like that then creates a story, which then can create you in a story, which then doesn't allow you to actually work with your emotions, the ego self of you, and say, wow, okay, wait a minute. I have a default mode network. It scans others in the self consistently, and that's the first space, that's the first thing that takes place always without us knowing, and it's going to say, am I safe or not safe? Thank you, Stephen Porges, for this, and really Daniel Siegel for presenting it in a way that I can repeat it. So your default mode network decides, am I going to engage with others? This means, does my body feel safe or not? The restorative embodied self, yes. In fact, our default mode network, an integrated mind, has a down-regulated default mode network. A traumatized mind has a down-regulated insula or isola. That's why their head is cut off from their body. So the head is your masculine, the body is your feminine. For my lovely 5D mystics, that's your oneness consciousness. If you get it all to be in harmony, and that would be if you get to move into your enlightenment vibration at the very least, and always in a ventral vagal state. So wanting to hug people. When I'm in conversations with people, I have a perfect person in mind who definitely does regurgitate information. In fact, I'm only friends with them because my younger sister told me to be nice, and that they're a nice person, and that I shouldn't be a snoot. And I said, fine. And so they are a very sweet, beautiful person, but the way they like to do information, my brain sometimes is just like not there. However, here's where secure attachment. So as I think I read the 7 months for the infants, adults, romantically or not, here's where our solo poly lifestyle allows us to just automatically love infinitely all humanity. And at that, we love the quirks that every person will bring. That's called flaws and imperfections. I got plenty. So long story short, though, we know what interests us, we know what doesn't, and we're always going to be genuine and honest. So the person knows that I find their way of doing things a little bit annoying. And we found a sweet spot, as that's what friends do. You find a way to have fun and joke around. Long story short, annoying. Whenever I'm annoyed, I don't justify and be like, oh, this is an annoying human being who shouldn't be around. No, that's not what my window is a window of welcome. So restorative embodied self and an integrated mind person will be aware of what's going on, because we're not children who think the world needs to revolve around us. So our emotions must rule the world. In our 2-year-old or 5-year-old, we will be like, okay, it's cool. There's different types of people. It doesn't have to be in the emotion of annoying. In fact, that's kind of egoic, isn't it? And aren't we all different? The differentiated self is the differentiated ego. So it's a person who can unconditionally love and accept themselves with their flaws and imperfections and others, since we are not all going to be merging. Because see, here's where a secure attachment individual with an integrated mind is going to know that I'm a self and you're a self. Then we're going to link and join. We'll find a way to tune to each other, but we don't merge and enmesh. Actually, the lovely attachment researchers show how this enmeshment is not very healthy. In fact, there's many ways Daniel Siegel describes emotions that I've felt before when people want to stuff me in their little puzzle. In fact, he gave me the answer to why, as a teenager, there were people that I just like, my hands, if they could, they would have done like this. Luckily, you don't have to do anything. People usually will find ways to get to where they want to be. And so they don't like people like me, because I won't be like, oh, let me, say yes to whatever is going on here. And it's a very interesting thing, because some people think that the compassionate streak actually does this little thing. It doesn't. The compassionate streak is because shaming people is not good to help people grow up. They're already in a shame cycle if they're rigid in their minds, because their body hasn't chosen to engage. Their body is in defense mode. So shaming would only perpetuate an adaptive child emotion response and not permit that unresolved trauma, or that part, that self of the part that hasn't been seen, to be felt, to be seen, to be soothed. And so here's where 5D mystics, the actual light worker, knows that it's about walking with the people, being with the people, and actually not condemning or casting any stone. And this is from your heart and your mind. And so when I'm around human suffering, my heart gets sad. But my heart also stays in a space of love and support, because I know that it is their journey. They can get out of their human suffering if they get out of shame, blame, fault, revenge. If they get out of the stereotypes, whether it be male, female, whatever it is, the drama land of, just watch a movie and you'll see why people still suffer. And then ask them how they think, and ask them if they ignore that, they can tap into their emotional state and bring compassion in. The way that you can tap into the human suffering, and this was from one of the Buddhist psychologists that I was watching in one of the EP webinars, as she said it, and she's not the only one, you're meant to lean into it to be able to release it. But when people lean into it, they end up in the story loop. They don't end up in it with tenderness, because they don't do compassion. They don't do a exploration, inner growth mindset. No, they do a inner critic, outer critic. They justify, oh no, I'm pissed because I have a right. Like with this friend, for example, if I had wanted to continue justifying, oh my God, I have to hear this person all the time, what emotion is going to arise every time? So it's very straightforward why people continue to suffer. The ones who are in a state of not complete poor, if somebody's starving to death, now that I will consider to try and help someone if they're in peril. But when we're talking about socially speaking, when I see people who actually perpetuate certain cycles and they don't support each other, they don't love each other, it's very sad. They have this one life to live and they're all busy basically talking like it's the movies. If only they got educated on what it was like to be a person from the good educators. So emotions, very important. They rule you. It rules everything. And yoga, big portfolio of ventral vagal nervous system exercises, FYI. Also why mindfulness, getting that neocortex under control. So it's basically you, a human being, learning to use your mind, left and right mode eventually, and your body. Nothing special, just simple, devoted effort to being what we usually will note that we are if we are compassionate and adult-like, forgiving and nuanced. We learn new skills. The restorative embodied self individual, the integrated mind individual, whether a researcher, an academic, a person who is doing what we all can do or not. In our day-to-day, we want to go around hugging people. And when someone's in a shame, blame, fault, or revenge cycle, we're not going to call them an energy vampire. We're not going to call people dark auras. We're not going to cancel. We're not going to call people toxic. We're not going to call people names because they've done something in their biological rudeness. We will try to have a conversation. So no, we won't shame them, because shaming them, they're already in their shame cycle. It's called inner critic, outer critic, denying through sex, drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it is that is compulsive. It's a very specific way that these things happen. In fact, if you're a good observer, and those of us who are 5D mystics, we'll notice the pattern. And it's a very sad one when people go to professionals who don't notice the pattern. And I'm talking about patterns that are unhealthy, physically and emotionally. And then there's withdrawing. And it's not meaning you withdraw. I mean, you have people around you that don't have a way to help you get on track. It's not through shaming, though, especially when consciously speaking, those same people will go out and find their confirmation bias through their own leaders, the ones who have the licenses and whatnot, the ones who haven't opened up to more information when it comes to how the mind works, neuroscience, the attachment research, so compassion, therapy, Bessel van der Kolk, Stephen Porges, Peter Levine. There's a lot of them. You guys really want to get a hold of that information for those who want to help humanity, of course. So try to spread the word of unconditional love, not shaming. We don't need more people to shame each other. We need people to be compassionate with each other. Oh, and have grown-up conversations. Functional adult, love language. Tune in for more. Have a great day.